Trained by day, Kyle Wigginton podcast by night, all day.
Fiona, McQuinn.
Hi again.
Hey. What is it? Has it been like a year now again? Do we do this every year?
I think we went over a year last time, but yeah, but I mean like roughly about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about that time.
Well, welcome back.
It's like how I mark my calendar now.
Yeah. Kyle's podcast.
Kyle's podcast.
You got to catch me up on life, dude. What's been going on?
Oh my gosh. A lot. I mean, been really busy and not with necessarily new stuff, but teaching film, not filming very much, but spending a lot of time in post-production and writing.
Mm-hmm.
Writing a lot when I have time. And yeah, so like a lot of stuff, but not necessarily new stuff yet, because I know it's coming. So I'm just like bracing myself.
Yeah, I think that's part of it, right? You got to prepare.
Yeah.
And then when it comes, you got to be ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like so many people, they're not prepared for what they actually want in life.
Yeah, I think that's true. It's because it can be an overwhelming process. I think we're overwhelmed right now, like generally speaking.
I absolutely believe that.
You do? Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the world's fucking crazy right now.
Uh-huh. It is.
Like, you don't know. That's why someone messaged me the other day, and they're planning their wedding reception for 2026 in October. Mm-hmm. And I was like, how in the hell is someone planning a wedding reception right now with all the shit going on in the world?
How do you even know? How do you know what's going to be happening?
You don't even know if we'll be here a year from now. Like, and you're planning a wedding reception here? Like, come on.
I mean, you got to hope for the best. So I guess, it's a good idea to plan for that. You can't. What's the alternative?
I think I'm too connected to everything. Mm-hmm. So I see all this stuff that's going on, and I'm like, it doesn't look good. Like if you project out into the future.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And I think that's the general consensus. And I think that's more overwhelming than we're already overwhelmed just with information. Mm-hmm. And then, when the information becomes stuff that's not great and not that people want to hear, and then it becomes a little tough to take. And I see that a lot. I see it, and I see it in my students, which makes me sad. I see it in my kids. And they're being so acutely aware of the stuff that's going on in the world and the tension that's there. I think is that makes me kind of sad.
Yeah, so, I couldn't imagine being a kid these days.
I couldn't either.
I know when I was growing up, I was scared of tornadoes.
Me too. Yeah.
I can't imagine being scared that there's going to be a war break out tomorrow or nukes being flying around.
I mean, and I guess I was aware. I was aware of global conflict because my mom was always like sort of acutely aware of that stuff. But so I was aware of it, but I never, it didn't feel like it was this so immediate in terms of impacting my life. And so, they're affected by it. They're affected by opinions. And that's the thing that I think is really bothersome to me, is how affected, how exposed and affected not just kids, but like everybody. We've replaced ideas with ideologies and opinions.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, I don't want to say replace. That's, but I think that, there was a time when, not to say that innovation isn't valued, but it's different now, where ideas and solutions and innovation and all of that stuff was so highly valued and was paramount. It was that was the thing that was most present. And now it's opinions and ideologies. And I think that has an unfortunate impact and unfortunate ramification of like slowing down all of the positive, especially the solutions, the creation of solutions. Mm-hmm. It slows down diplomacy. It slows down, just the ability for people just to get along.
Yeah, I actually saw that in the mayor election this year, because I had Ricky Twigs on the podcast. Yeah, he's running for mayor, and his ideas are innovative and forward thinking. Mm-hmm. And there's no way he's going to win, because he didn't join the popularity contest.
Yeah,
he just came out and said, "Look, I have these ideas that will cut your power bills to nothing.
Yeah.
They'll pay your property taxes.
Right.
And like, these are things we can do.
Solutions,
Ideas.
of problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, he didn't win the popularity contest.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know if it's because, I've been thinking about this, like, why is it, I think that to some degree, this idea of like overwhelm, that we all are experiencing, I think this polarity that we see is a coping mechanism for a lot of people, where they I just can't handle all the information. Let me just simplify it with some black and white thinking.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like there's psychology behind that, though.
Oh yeah.
Like, if you overwhelm a human, they're going to listen to what you say. It's kind of like whenever you go into the military, and the sergeants scream at you and yell at you in the beginning because they're overwhelming you. That way, you listen to every word they say.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to that. I think the other thing too is that, like, people are tired. They're tired. They're overwhelmed. They have a lot to deal with. They have a lot of information to process, and I think that critical thinking requires a lot of mental energy, and so I think that there's not a lot left over to really sit down and calmly, critically think about things and develop new solutions, or really to take the time and the energy to empathize. That's my favorite subject, right? To truly empathize with people. It's because it's tiring. It requires a lot of energy. I don't think people have a lot of, maybe I'm just projecting.
No, I think you're right. Whenever I used to work a 9 to 5, I felt the same way. And then whenever I stopped doing that, I got heavily into meditation and stuff. And like, I just went deep down that rabbit hole. And I was like, why don't more people do this? Yeah. And I was talking to someone one day, he's like, because I don't have fucking time. Yeah. I don't have to be able to sit down and like shut work out of my brain and like go into something else. And I think it's a muscle that you grow over time. But at the same time, I can see where people are just, overwhelmed by the world today. Yeah.
I started probably about, 4 months ago. I started waking up earlier, to give myself time to, I guess meditate is the right word, really just to have that open space for my brain before I ever even think about anything else. And it has done wonders. It's definitely lowered my stress level, but I have so much, brain activity. I'm always, thinking as soon as I'm up and out of bed, my brain is going nonstop. And so I think but I'm always having to think about this specific thing or that, what do I have to do? What do I have to accomplish? So giving myself like space, like 30 minutes of space in the morning to just let my brain get through all of that extra energy helps so much. It helps so much. And that's probably where I do like a lot of my best thinking because there's no pressure. Yeah.
Yeah. I freaking love it, man. It's like part of my daily routine now. Yeah. And I've gotten so good at it that as soon as I shut my eyes, I'm gone.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. Well, I know it's something you've been doing for a long time. So you're gotta be,
Yeah. I was thinking about it in like we may have talked about this before, but like in like the quantum realm. So, the collapse of the wave function. So I think that's what we are right now. Like we're in particle form right now because we are observing ourselves.
Yeah, I think we've talked about, I had a similar conversation.
Yeah. So like, I think that's the whole key to meditation is basically shutting down the observers and then expanding back out into the wave function. Yeah. And that's how you change your reality.
Yeah. I think the people's perception of reality, it's like you get so mired down in it in one way or another that being able to step away from that take a step back is extraordinarily helpful, but not easy.
Definitely not easy. There's a book I'm listening to right now on Spotify. It's a holographic reality. That's what it's called. And they're basically talking about kind of the same thing I was talking about with the line of the quantum realm and meditation. But one of the examples they give in there was that there was a hypnotist that came to a party one night and he hypnotized this guy. And at the end of the session, he basically told him, he said, now, whenever I clap my hands, you're not going to be able to see your daughter. Your daughter is not in this room anymore. And the daughter was standing right in front of the man and he clapped his hands and he couldn't see his daughter.
That's insane.
Couldn't hear her laughing at him or anything.
Wow.
And to like further double down on this, the hypnotist went behind the daughter, pulled something out of his pocket, and then said, "What is the object I'm holding in my hand?"
Wow.
Through the daughter.
Yeah.
And the man told him it was a watch. And he said, "What's the inscription on the watch?" And the man was squinting his eyes to read. And he read the inscription on the watch.
That's crazy.
That's insane. It's
That's
like, how do you do that?
Yeah. That definitely makes you question a lot.
Everything, man. Yeah. Like we don't see any of this that's actually going on. All we see is the limited perception that our brains can unravel.
Yeah. Yeah. And we have so much more to, we have so much more to process now. And I think there's so much noise and there's so much clutter in the way of being able to, think about things and, clearly. It's one of the things so in this study of theology, which is sort of like taking me down the path of like the evolution of human thought, the evolution of philosophical, spiritual thought, which really is like it's tied to the very beginning of civilization. But when you look at its relationship to like the evolution of writing and how spirituality and politics and communication and all of these things are just so inextricably woven together, but how they develop together is like I'm learning more about it all the time, and it's so interesting. And so one of the things that we were talking about this earlier, talking about the idea of like morality, and so one of the things that I've been reading about is the Code of Hammurabi.
No, what is that?
Okay. So King Hammurabi, which is so roughly 5,000 years ago, a little less than that, but in ancient Mesopotamia, so he became king in Babylon, and he had his, I think, 237, I don't quote me on that, but laws, right? His code, and he had it etched in stone and put on this thing's about 7 feet tall, that was erected in the public square, essentially, for lack of a better comparison. But and so it was the first. So when it's spoken about or taught, most of the time they talk about how it's the first. It was like the precedent for legal code. Certainly, well, I'm not here to defend the morality of the Code of Hammurabi, but the thing was, it's eye for an eye, type of thing. Yeah. But the thing that's interesting about it is that what's left out of the conversation, more often than not, is the fact that this was something that was divinely given to him. According to him, it was from the sun god, right, and the god of justice, and so this is also this precedent of the idea of this divine law. The purpose of it was to get everybody on the same page in terms of what's right and what's wrong. Because before then, there really wasn't a publicly communicated standard, and certainly not in writing,
according to our understanding of history, right?
As far as we can tell, in all of the most ancient, cuneiform documents, right, or tablets rather, the earliest things that the earliest writing obviously was record keeping, making lists of things, transactional. But then the very next thing is spiritual in nature. And then you very quickly get to this, the idea of establishing what's moral, what's right and what's wrong, what's just. And it's interesting how the idea at the time, so what had been happening throughout Mesopotamia in the, couple of thousand years around that those rise and fall of the Babylonian kingdoms and everything, was this trying to get everybody on the same page. And it was, more often than not, it was done through a combination of religious and political efforts. They were tied together. But the whole point was to make, was behind empire building.
So that's also Joseph Unwin's argument.
Yeah.
Yeah. In his book, Sexual Behavior and, well, I forgot what the name of it was again, but he's basically saying that whenever you have a sexually permissive culture, you start thinking about the like the quick dopamine hits and like what can I do for me, rather than thinking in a cultural term.
Yeah, because I mean, beyond sexual permissiveness, that's just one aspect of what has to be a society that's become more permissive overall.
Yeah,
and that is a departure from some sort of. But the problem is, we can't agree on what's moral anymore without upsetting people.
I don't understand that because it seems pretty fucking easy to me.
It seems like it would be common sense.
Yeah.
But then we get down into the minutia and like disagreeing over minutia that really doesn't matter when we should all be able to agree. So this is like, yeah.
Why do you think we can't agree on these things anymore?
I think that, okay, so we may have talked about this before, but if you go back and you look at Socrates, right? And he had his contemporaries, which were the Sophists. And the Sophists were, they were educators. They taught rhetoric. They taught the idea that the truth was relative, right? It was not objective. It was subjective, and that you could spin the truth to persuade, right? To make your argument. And this was something that at the time in ancient Greece was really highly valued. Like, how do you make your point? How do you win your argument? Socrates, had some objections to this because he believed his priority was the idea of dialogue and reason and logic to uncover objective truth. He did believe in objective truth. He recognized the idea of like moral relativism, like it depends. Is this right or wrong? Well, it depends. It depends on the context. It depends on the situation. But he held to this idea that that there are objective truths, and that it was very important to discover them and to live according to them. And then that philosophy was further sort of refined by Plato and then Aristotle in different ways. But we see this idea of like this division between, and I guess it's, that's kind of how much do we value the finding of objective truth anymore when everybody wants to say, well, there is no objective truth. Everything depends.
So you think that's what people are doing?
So then everything becomes debatable.
Right.
So it gets very hard to agree. We want to debate on the morality of this or that. And well, it depends, or it's individual. And, while I think, there's value in that, the water becomes muddy, and where do we find points to agree upon? I think that we value debate. We do value debate, right? And we see it, when we have, politicians debate. What do we say at the end of it? Who won the debate? Who won the debate? And, my argument is we need to have discussions. The debates need to be, now I understand it, it kind of goes hand in hand with politics because you're trying to win an election, but we need to have more dialogue that is, the objective is to find common ground in an effort to find solutions. And that just doesn't, it's always about, I want to prove my point.
Why didn't you run for mayor?
It's too busy.
No, I completely agree with everything you're saying. I think that a lot of times most of the shit that people are arguing and debating about is stuff that doesn't even need to be debated about.
Right.
It's like you guys are missing the entire point here. There's other shit going on in the world that's way worse than what gender you are.
Yeah. And we have got to come to a place where we recognize that we have got to at least agree on some priorities for the sake of humanity. Like we really, really do. And if you have no agreement, if you cannot come to any sort of consensus on basic human rights and morality, right? Then what do you do? How do you accomplish that? You can't. It's just common sense.
Once again, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I hear people talking about this shit all the time around the bar. And I just think that for so many people, discussing like real problems becomes once again overwhelming.
Yeah, exactly.
So they make up things that they can justify in their own minds, and they say, "This is my identity. This is me. I'm going to argue this till the end."
It's so much easier just to find a way to justify your own opinion, because it takes less effort, arguably, or at least that's the perception. It takes less effort because then you don't have to change because it's hard. Like, changing your mind is hard.
To destroy synapses that are already solidified.
And I think it's threatening for a lot of people because your identity is, that's something, what do we value more than our identity? It's how we make sense of the world. It's the lens through which we see the world and we make sense of the world. And so if that shifts, then that's a lot to process. That's a lot to take in.
Do you see this in the kids that you teach?
Absolutely. There, I teach really smart, really, reasonable kids. And, but even, this idea of let's have dialogue and find common ground is something that isn't the first thing they think of. It's no, let me debate and let me establish my position and convince you to why I'm right. Come to my side. Come to my perspective.
Even at that age, and it's like most of the shit that you know is what your parents programmed into you.
Yeah, I mean, actually, more and more, I see that it's an opposing view for the sake of being an opposing view. And because they admit this is, teenagers, I mean, all the way up until, some of them are already 18, but they freely admit that social media, culture of the world directly and substantially impacts their values. Their like intrinsic moral values that are absolutely in part made by and formed by their peers in the society and social media. And that's scary.
That is terrifying because you have no clue what these major companies. And so one of the arguments I heard about that is that it was like the first man who created the algorithm for like Facebook or something. He was talking about this, and he was saying that that it's not what originally he said that it wasn't their it wasn't, what am I thinking of here? They didn't mean to like create these algorithms that only give you negative stuff.
Oh yeah.
They basically created an algorithm that says give humans more of what they want. And then humans just love more of negative stuff. They love to see girls' asses. So I mean, the algorithms just keep giving you that stuff, which is causing an impact on the kids and adults.
Yeah, there is an absolute crisis right now particularly in young women, and how they are valuing themselves, how they are assessing their self-worth. And it's really, really disturbing.
What do you mean?
I hesitate to go into detail, but basically it is the more, the more attention that they can get for their physical appearance, that is, and I mean, that's not new, but to such great lengths to one up the next girl that it is, because they just, it's the only thing that they seem to see, think that other people see value in. This is obviously a generalization, but I see it a lot, and not so much necessarily in the students that I teach directly, but in the people that they know. It is, it's really, really distressing. In order to get to gain, and and the other thing too is that I also see many young men who are really looking hard for women of value, for young, for they're looking for value. And this is like, I mean, even in the, teenage years, they're looking for quality, and it's, and for values, for substance.
What does that mean though? Like, what is a value for a young man?
morality, modesty.
Young teenagers are looking for this.
Yep.
When I was a teenager,
Now,
I was not looking for that.
Yeah. I mean, I know. I'm obviously
Yeah.
like I'm making, but there are more. What I'm saying is that there are a lot more. And I'm seeing there's a lot more girls who are being more aggressive, and the guys are like, "This is can we talk first? can we establish some sort of relationship? Can we what do you value? Where is your ambition for the future? What do you want to do? How
Oh, I see what you mean now.
And
they're looking for a partner.
yes, and all they're finding is again, I'm like, this is obviously a generalization and there are exceptions, but I see it so much. And the girls are just so focused on physically attracting others that they have sort of lost the value of their self-worth in other ways.
I'm sure you're aware of the mouse Utopia experiment, right?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so in the mouse Utopia experiment, what they did was they took a large group of mice and they stuck them in an enclosure and gave them all the food they wanted, like all the toys they wanted, all this stuff. And they started just observing the behaviors. And what they noticed was that all the female mice only went to like the alpha mice. Mm-hmm. Like there was like 3 or 4 alpha mice that hung out around the food.
Yeah.
And the female mice just went there and they preened themselves all day long to look beautiful for the alpha mice. And then all these like young adolescent mice, they just started hanging out with each other, the dudes. Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of what I see in our society today.
Yeah. That's, I have to look that up. Yeah. And I think it's unfortunate because I think that we really need each other in the world today more than ever. Like people, we need that, like we need real connections. We need real substance. We need real support. To go through what we're all going through, but we're all becoming increasingly isolated by these, echo chambers or just, sort of a loss of direction. And so I think it's hard.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't see, and people say that I'm, a very negative person anyway, but I don't see this going anywhere good. Like I don't see us being able to even pull out of this at this point.
But you think you're more of a realist, right?
Yeah, I think that what we're going through right now is the decline of society.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's going to be anything that can pull us out of this unless something drastic changes.
I think what worries me is I think that, in the past certain trends, certain, phases that society goes through to some degree, there's been even if it's going in a bad direction, there's still some predictability to it.
Mm-hmm.
You can sort of follow things to their natural next conclusion. Right now, who knows?
Yeah.
How do you know? Like, especially with, artificial intelligence and all of the other factors that we have that are so wildly unpredictable, that trying to navigate for the future becomes very, you just feel very untethered.
Yeah. Well, there's just a lot of variables right now.
Yeah.
And it's hard to hold all these variables in your head and like actually come up with, the solution. Mm-hmm. It's like even with AI and blockchain, like these are really cool technologies that we're coming up with, robots that we're coming up with.
Yeah.
But when you start thinking about it, it's like we're at this convergence right now where humanity can go one of 2 ways. And it doesn't look like we're going the right way.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like we're going the opposite way, especially with all the war shit. It's like, what is going on? Like, are we not past this yet?
Right. Yes. You would think at this point, like, how have we not evolved past just brutal conflict?
What I think the average person is.
Yeah.
I think that we have the wrong people in power. If you had the right person in power, he would look, and there may be information that I don't know, but me looking at it from the outside.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is just retarded. Everything you guys are doing right now is stupid.
Yeah, you can only give the benefit of the doubt for so long before the reality is just like becomes really apparent.
Yeah.
And I think, so I was reading the Universal Declaration of Human Rights to my ethics class.
Okay.
So it's something that's on the UN website. And it was established after World War II and the idea was to get everybody on the same page about what basic human rights are that should be adhered to, respected globally, like let's establish just some basic, fundamental, everybody should abide by this and be held accountable, be held to this. And the really sad part was, by the time I got to like the 5th article, I forget, I mean, there's like roughly 30 something, I think. But by the time I got to like the 5th article, they're like not laughing, but, just rolling their eyes at like, you kidding? Like who actually respects this? Like what country, what government actually upholds this?
Yeah.
And that's sad.
So they're that like outlandish, or we're just not doing any of the things that they actually say.
I mean, we're just not doing it. I mean, it's exactly what you would think it is, right? So I mean, you have, just the idea of the freedom to exist, to to have a country, to practice freedom of religion, to without fear of just safety of person, basic safety of person. And it gets more detailed, when it gets down to things like, education, but even just like basic access to, food and water,
Yeah, we definitely don't abide by that. I think that all the time about the homeless people in New Orleans.
Yeah.
It's like for us to be for us to be a high society, we still have people living on the streets. And a lot of people say, those are, they want to do that. They're there by choice. Maybe a few of them.
Yeah, but the vast majority, it's
like who wants to sleep on the street on a cardboard box when it's raining?
Yeah, and if that's truly the life that they want, I mean, there still are other ways to support, I think, those people, and we're not, I think we do a very poor job of giving mental health support. There's the imbalance. I mean, we're just looking at such an imbalance. This shouldn't be news to him. I'm sure it's not news to anybody, but there is such an imbalance in our society, in our country, but also globally, of haves and have-nots, and the idea. One of the things that I think we have lost, and in part I think it's because of how complicated everything is and how little time we have. But the idea of serving, like being in service to others, is not what it used to be. Not that it doesn't exist, but it is, I think, because so many people are just trying, they feel like they're trying to survive. Mm-hmm. And also when you're afraid, when you're fearful of the future, you're fearful of your future, how easy is it to step out of that and be of service to somebody else?
Yeah, I think that all starts at the top. If you don't have leaders that are doing that, they're living that way, then no one else is going to lead no one else is going to follow the example.
Yeah.
So I think that's the biggest thing is we have poor leadership right now.
I absolutely.
Yeah. And if you actually had someone in that led that way, then I think everything would change. And someone who actually took innovative ideas and went, okay, we're going to try this out.
Right.
But I just
with the right motivation behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's one of the arguments. But you were talking about the divide that we have right now. That's one of the arguments that they're making about AI. Is they're saying that AI is actually making people who are smart and inquisitive smarter, making people who are lower on the scale of brains dumber.
Really?
Yes.
So I'd like to hear more about that, because I was reading about the study that they did. I'm trying to remember which university. Maybe it was Stanford, but in any case, where they essentially assessed the cognitive activity of people who were, in order to accomplish a task, those that used no artificial intelligence, whatever, whatsoever, not even like a Google search, but that, basically did the task, let's say did, researched and wrote an essay. When they did it completely on their own versus when they used something, as seemingly innocuous as Google versus using like a ChatGPT. And not only did it significantly, like substantially reduce their cognitive activity, but also it lasted. It was not just it wasn't just the immediate, it was sustained decline in their actual cognitive activity.
Whenever they use GPT.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then there's some argument about how are they using it and things like that. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
Yeah. So the how they're using it was the stuff that I was reading. And what they were saying is that if you want to learn information, the easiest way to do it is to get on GPT and ask. Like kind of like I was having a chat with it when you first pulled up.
I do that all the time.
Yeah. So I mean, if you really are inquisitive and want to know information, you can get it super fast, and you can just keep building on your ideas.
Right. Yeah.
Where if you're just using Chat GPT to write your emails and shit at work, then you're cutting down your cognitive abilities and there are a lot of people that are doing that. They're just like, they're not even responding to emails anymore. They're literally letting the AI do it for them.
Yeah. I can't fathom doing that. I mean, but I know it's that it certainly, so it's, facilitates a lot of tasks, and we're just at the precipice of what, of where we're heading. And we're heading there quick.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I tell people
like really fast.
I tell people that all the time, like, your job is about to get taken. Like, and they're like, no, my job can never be taken. It's way too complex. I'm like, dude, you do logistics for a shipping company. Like AI can do your job super easy.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what happens? That's the thing, and I think that's for people that care to think that far ahead, it's then what?
Yeah.
What becomes of value? What does,
how do I get money? How do I survive?
Yeah. Well, I mean, of course, there's the idea of like sort of the global standard income, if
UBI.
Then
but is that ever going to be established?
Yeah, is that ever going to be? I doubt it, because
right now the government shut down because they can't figure out a budget. Right. So I mean, like, is there ever going to be a UBI? Like, come on. Yeah.
I mean, the things that would have to change for that ever to become reality, they're hard to imagine. But so many things are. That's why the lack of predictability is like, who knows?
Yeah. See, and I can understand in your situation with children and stuff that would be difficult. For me, as just a single dude, I'm like, let it happen. Let's see what happens. Yeah. Yeah. Because I feel like I can survive in any situation. If I have to, I'll eat humans. Right. Yeah. I mean, let's not let me get to that level. Okay?
Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Right.
But I mean, like, that's my mentality of it. It's kind of fun for me to be here and observe all this shit. Yeah. But I can understand if I had kids and I was worried about like their survival and stuff, would be very different.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't really worry about my kids' survival. I worry about their happiness. I don't worry about, so I'm not really, I'm not, I approach it more from the standpoint of like curiosity than fear, I think. Just that's,
I think your daughter's going to be okay. I'm terrified of her. Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen her smile.
Oh, no, she smiles a lot, but she's, so interestingly enough, she is, she's 2 years away less than from, essentially 2 years away from college. And
I didn't realize they're that old.
I know.
That's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like, well, so I've known you for 10 years at this point. So yeah,
doesn't seem like it.
I know they weren't too big at that time, but yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And so she wants to study neuroscience.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. And I think, and I'm happy that somebody like her who thinks as deeply as she does about things is going to study something like that, because
what got her into that? And has she heard of Robert Sapolsky yet?
I don't think so.
She needs to get in Robert Sapolsky. His lectures are on YouTube. She would love them.
Really? You'll have to send me the name. Yeah. But one of the things one aspect that she's really interested in, and it's a fairly new field, is called neuroaesthetics.
Okay.
And there's basically, I think, only one university right now in the world that offers a master's degree. It's Goldsmiths in London, but really studies how the things that we see, and I'm just like, I'm sort of generalizing, but how the things that we see affect us from a neuroscientific standpoint. And really looking at the link, right? The link, the link between those things. And, part of it focuses on beauty, like how beautiful things affect us.
Okay.
And, but there's so much more to it than that. And, and I there's this picture that's not new, but it's been circulating, that shows the nervous system, but including the brain and the eyes all exposed. Right. And when you think, because the eyes are literally part of the brain and how that affects your entire nervous system. This is one of the reasons I think people need to be so aware of what they allow themselves to see, because it is affecting you on every level.
Well, so for me, that brings in the question of what if most people aren't even viewing reality? It's kind of like the hypnosis guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like he wasn't able to see certain things.
Right.
And I think that's why with most people, I don't think most people actually see everything in reality.
Yeah.
I think they're so like fixed on things.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I think that's like, it's kind of two sides of the same coin, because I mean, clearly what we are seeing with our actual eyes physically, you know, what we are seeing is impacting us in a very real, you know, physiological way. But then there's the whole other aspect of, you know, the things that we are perceiving outside of that and how that affects us. So I think it's fascinating to me. I would love to have, you know, if I could rewind time, that's probably what I would study too.
It's funny because a lot of the neuroscientists say the same thing. They're like, if I could rewind time, I would like to study this part of the brain.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what Robert Sapolsky is one of the main ones that says that. And what his main takeaway from all of his years of science, and the guy is one of the most brilliant people I've ever listened to in my life, is that you have no free will.
Yeah. So we're okay. Is this like determinism? What's his basis of?
He's basically saying that from the moment that you come out of your mother, that there are environmental factors that are steering your decisions.
So this is determinism, right? Yeah. So basically, and if you could know the state of every particle in the universe at any given time, theoretically, if you could predict the future, because everything, cause and effect.
But I say that's what astrology is, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess so. But this is more sort of the physical aspect of it. But I guess it all sort of boils down to that. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that it's all the same thing. I think that when you start looking at astrology, you're actually seeing, you know, your future. I had this guy do my reading one time.
Yeah,
I was telling you,
I remember.
Dude, it was the most fascinating shit ever. And what's crazy is the stuff he gets up to the point of like your age, and he goes, "Okay, now do you want me to tell you the future, or just put you on the path, or tell you the correct path that you have?" And I was like, "Sure, steer me on this path." And it's fucking happening.
Really?
Yeah, like, and it's not me making those decisions. What it is like, there's like an optimal path you're supposed to be on. And when you get off of that path, then you start getting resistance.
So that's not quite the same thing as determinism, but it is sort of like you have an optimal path.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a predetermined path.
But then you bring in the question of NPCs, you know, non-playable characters.
right, yeah.
Or they call them unsold in the, in like the etheric realm or whatever they call it, or whatever the metaphysical plane. So people that don't have a soul, maybe they don't have a path. Like maybe they don't have an option. Like I have options of what I can do. Yeah. Because I'm one of the players, right, of the game. But maybe there are people that don't.
Yeah. I don't know. That would be a hard one for me to come to that conclusion.
You've also never taken mushrooms. So.
No, I have not.
Yeah. I think but that's the same thing, right? It's like kind of what you're talking about, where the neuroaesthetics, because the first time I took mushrooms, it was an eye-opening experience. Yeah. Because I was seeing so much more visual data than I normally am.
Yeah, but how much of that is an illusion versus reality? See, I'm very concerned with. I am like Socrates. I am very concerned with objective truth.
Right.
Like whatever that is. That's my priority.
But I mean, as a scientist, you know that you don't see but like a very tiny percentage of what's going on around you.
Yeah, of course. So yeah. I mean, that's.
So what if by taking these substances, I'm basically removing the filters off my brain and seeing reality for what it truly is?
How do you rely on that though? I don't know. I think it's, how do you trust that? But then again, how do you trust your, I know where you're going with this. Yeah. No, I mean, valid.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting experience that I think everyone should have if they want the experience. Yeah. That's what I tell all my friends. And I know so many successful people that don't do them, that are still very successful, but I know successful people that do them and are still very successful. So, I mean, that's one of the arguments they use, a lot of people use on that drug specifically, is that I don't want to change who I am. Like I'm, you know, I know who I am right now. Like, what if I take this and lose my mind? It's like, well, what if you take that and expand your mind?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, it's a, you know, I just feel like I don't need it to change my, like, I don't need it. I would, you know, um, just the pondering that I do in my own sober brain is enough for me, is definitely enough for me. Yeah. And I think that there's, you know, I think that there is actually, speaking of sobriety, that's I think one of the best decisions I ever made was I don't drink.
Like straight sober?
I don't, yeah. I mean, not that I ever did a lot, but like, I just don't drink anymore.
Yeah.
I don't, and now that they're finding, that they're finding like links to dementia and things like that, I'm like, oh, I've never been happier with that decision.
Yeah, no, alcohol is so bad. We do sell it here, but it's so bad for you.
Sorry, maybe I'm in the wrong place to say that.
No, that's the bad thing is I talk about this all the time in the bar while people are taking shots.
Right.
Because like I don't drink alcohol anymore.
Yeah.
I drink THC, but I don't drink the alcohol.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we sell THC seltzers here too. But I mean, I tell people this is poison.
Yeah.
And like, but it's poison that makes you feel good. Does it, or does it numb you?
I don't. I like the clarity of my own brain. I've never felt I just don't feel the need to
clock out.
Yeah.
That's what I call it. I call it clocking out.
Yeah. I don't, or even alter. I like having the consciousness of where my brain is going and because it goes to interesting enough places on its own.
So
I think deeply enough about things. Yeah.
One of the things that I will say that weed has helped me do is I used to be like a linear thinker. Like I would go, okay, this is like the problem. How am I going to solve it from this perspective? Whereas when I smoke weed and think about the same problem, I can see it from different angles.
Yeah. See, I don't need
that.
I can.
It's our brains are all different.
Yes, they are. They know that. That's absolutely true. We definitely, and in fact, so to that point, I never leave here without talking about empathy, right? And so I think the first podcast we ever did, I was talking about how I was very curious about, sort of the idea of the empathy gene, and that there has to be one, and that was just from my observations at the time, and so I've done a lot of studying and reading since then, and guess what?
There is.
I mean, there really is. It is, and it really is tied to it's really tied to the structure of the brain. But you can look at it. You can look at someone's brain, and the structure of an empathetic person is different. Now, don't ask me exactly, because I don't remember exactly what the structural difference is, but I do know that also people that are on the spectrum, that it's different, and it definitely manifests itself differently. But there are absolute differences in people's ability to experience empathy versus sympathy.
But do you think these are epigenetic changes, and everyone has the ability to be an empath, and like society like comes along and knocks you down?
No, I do think that it can be fortified, and it can be taught, but some people, their brains, I think, will never. I mean, and I guess it's probably related when they study the brains of
psychopaths.
And definitely, you see atrophy of the brain and things like that, which is not necessarily the same, but there is a lack of an actual ability to experience empathy.
I know you're familiar with Carl Jung, right?
Yeah.
And what he says about empaths and stuff. Like some of the things he says about empaths is that when an empath meets a narcissist, about the different changes that can happen.
Yeah.
And he says that one way they can go is downhill, where they can kind of like, atrophy, like you were saying, or the other way is they can go into like almost like a super empath, where they can feel everything around them, but they don't let the emotions affect them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that I think there's a necessity, and I do think that we have I think that we have a crisis of empathy. Be the title of my new book. I'm only half kidding, but I really do. I think that we have, and I'm curious as to whether or not there are actual, neurological changes that have happened, across society. Like if there are actual physical changes that have happened that are causing that.
I think so. So here's my thought with the brain is the more you do a task, the better wired into the brain it is.
Sure. Yeah.
So my thought is the more empathy you show to someone, the larger that area is going to grow.
Yeah.
Like there's one area, it's the mid-cingulate cortex, mid-cingulate cortex, something like that. And they say that the more you do a task that's difficult that you don't want to do, the better you get at overpowering that.
And it
that
actually,
feeling.
reinforces that. But Andrew Huberman.
Huberman. So I wonder if that's the case. Like we have a society from a culture perspective right now that's not empathic because they're scared, they're in fear.
Yeah.
So, I mean, of course, when you're in fear, you're not going to go help your brethren out.
100%. And the more that we are, yes, exactly. That's exactly my point. And I think the more that, and unfortunately, our society is very good at instilling more fear in people. And the more that happens, the less empathetic, the less service oriented people become. And then and then the infrastructure starts to fall apart. And I think that's like, I really think that is at the core of a lot of the problems that we have. And we do not, and when you look at the leaders that we have, they do not display empathy.
And I wonder that too. I wonder if it's because they've never been around like the common person. Like I think it's one of the issues we have with some of the leadership we have today is that they're not living amongst the people.
So that's Plato's Republic, right? His idea of Utopia at Callipolis, beautiful city, his idea of Utopia, which was flawed, was that you would have, your philosopher kings, your rulers, then you have the warriors or the guardians, which is like, and then which the philosopher kings were chosen from the warrior guardians. And then you have the producers, you have the people that supply everything else, goods and services, everything else. But the warriors, the guardians, lived separate from society. And then the philosopher kings were chosen from that. And they were only educated, this is under his, idea, is that they would only be educated according to what the philosopher kings deemed to be the proper education. And so they're getting censored information and then living completely separate from society. And then, so your philosopher kings, your rulers are, picked from that class among people of people that have never lived in society. I mean,
that's the flaw you're talking about.
I think it's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
And is that very different than what we have?
Yes.
I mean,
I'm just trying to think of
in terms of the people that go on to rule and make substantial decisions, how much, many of them have never truly lived. And certainly once they are of the ruling class, very few actually live in and amongst the people. And
I see the comparison. I see what you're saying. But I do think
that's not always true. I mean, it's not always true, but it does seem like very often the ones who are put in that truly wind up wielding power. And I think it's a sort of it's a vicious cycle.
But it's crazy to me that he would have Plato was very smart.
Yeah.
So it's crazy to me that he would have such a flawed system like that. Like, I wonder if that's actually his creation or if it's something that's been like put into
it's the Republic. It's like what he wrote. Because
that's clearly you and I sitting here discussing it. We're both going, no, that's wrong.
Well, and I think there's more to it, but it also, and the other thing too, is that, his idea was that the producers everyone would have to stay in their role for the entirety of their life. So there was no,
a caste system.
A caste system. Exactly. Yeah. So, so that also, it goes against what we value now. Certainly it's hard for us to see how that would work.
Yeah. I see flaws in our current system though. So, I don't think that any system is ever going to be, 100% accurate. I think that the system must evolve over time.
Yeah.
And I think that's also what we're missing today is like our system never really evolved. We kept adding more and more laws and amendments and stuff, but we haven't actually evolved the system.
The overall. Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
But as far as like, I don't think any information should be censored.
Yeah.
I think every piece of information should be out there. If you want to go find it, go find it. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm having trouble finding this book right now, because it was written in 1930, but I mean, okay.
Oh wow, yeah. So that's
so
kind
it's
of a
old,
progressive talk.
But you would think that it would be like reprinted at some point in time.
Yeah, yeah. It's again, I mean, I think it comes back to this idea of getting people on the same fundamental page of at least of what's right and wrong, and you wouldn't think that would be so difficult, but then they want to debate the gray area and the nuances of it, and then that disagreement winds up descending into chaos and polarization. And even though I think in reality, I don't know that we disagree that much, really.
I agree with that.
And I think that's the thing, that's if we can get over, quibbling over the petty differences, then can we not? And that's again why I think the focus needs to be less on debate and much more on compromise, diplomacy, and coming to some common ground for in the effort to find solutions, actual solutions to problems, because we have problems that need solving.
Well, this takes us back to social media. So I think that right now what's happening is our brains are being hijacked. We're such a social species that we want to like go with the group. Yeah. It's a herd mentality.
Yeah.
So whenever you see these opinions, which are probably like fringe opinions on social media, you're like, oh, everyone must think this. Yeah. So I'm just going to start doing this. And it's like, no, everyone really doesn't think that.
Right.
You're only getting a small segment of the population.
Yeah. I think it's so important. And this is why we have to be talking to each other in the real world, not just in the social media world, because, also think about how many people do not put their opinions on social media. Mm-hmm. And those are probably, honestly, the more moderate thinkers, and the ones that because they don't want to buy into this, this idea and this trend that we have toward just putting your opinion out there, and it becomes polarizing. And, the moderate doesn't stand out, right? It doesn't play into that human desire to, see the extremes and to see the negativity, right? The algorithm.
And you got to know that's all by design too, right? With the whole cancel culture and shit.
Yeah.
Like the fact that they don't want you to get on there and say your opinions, they'll cancel you.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think by that, I think that the voice of the common voice is silenced by and large. And the one that the one that most of us probably agree on more than we disagree on.
Yeah. So is there a way to get around that, Fiona?
I have been contemplating that. I really have. Like, how do we have civil discourse? How do we prioritize finding solutions and finding common ground, and actually make that something that is valued, that's truly held in high value in our society?
You got nothing?
Not yet.
I mean, I guess it has to be taught.
Maybe next year.
It has to be taught at a young age, right? So I mean, like
it does.
The teachers, the educators have to be the ones to push that forward.
I'm doing my best. Right? I do, and in fact, so this is really, really interesting. So I got on this exact tear right not too long ago, mm-hmm. like because seeing even in the classroom, these debates, and I'm like, okay, we're going to do things differently. This is not going to be about who wins. We're going to sit down, two of you representing two opposing views, strongly opposing viewpoints. You're going to sit down. I just had them pull two desks in the middle of the classroom. Said, okay, we're going to have a discussion, and we're going to listen respectfully. But the goal is not to win. The goal is to identify where you have common ground, the things you agree upon. And this is so interesting what happened. At the end of the day, okay, as they continued this discussion.
Can you tell us what the topic was?
It was freedom of speech. It had to do with censoring information. And so at the end of the day, they were like, okay, there were far more points that they actually agreed upon. When it comes to, things like hate speech or inciting to violence and things like that, there were far more points that they agreed upon. But one of the students, we ran out of time. And at that point, all we had established from the two opposing viewpoints was that they actually agreed. So great, wonderful. Now we have found common ground. Now we can look for solutions. And one student was like, well, no, I really don't think because I really don't think I agree with you. I don't think we've gotten to the point, I don't think we finished this discussion because I really feel like I disagree. And that was it. And then we ran out of time. But there was this desire to disagree. There was this desire to hold a different opinion because they valued having a different opinion.
Interesting.
And I was like, what just happened? It was not at all about, oh my gosh, this revelation of we actually agree. Like, we actually agree. This is okay. Now we can find solutions. It was like, no, I don't want to agree with you. I don't want to be on your side.
Why do you think that was?
I don't know.
And is it something with the actual child? Like what?
No, I mean, they're very intelligent, reasonable, normal, probably representative of a large part of the population, definitely representative, and, but it was just this, I saw this like dig the heels in, and no, I don't know. I want to continue this discussion and find the point of disagreement, not solution.
Do you think they're one of the players in the game?
No, I don't know. I mean, I think that, I do think that there is, now maybe maybe part of it is trying to go to a deeper level, but the way that it the way that it came across was very much, I do not concede to agreeing with you. And I don't know if it was because I'm, this idea of like, well, I'm not like you, or seeing something in the other person that they didn't like. I don't know. Like, I truly don't know, but I was actually pretty shocked at this desire to disagree.
So what was the argument that he was fighting for, or she?
No limits.
No, I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
like, because where do you draw the line, right?
Well, that's where they were actually largely in agreement, is that in terms of freedom of speech, that there should be some, not necessarily limits, but ramification, that there still are consequences. There still is accountability. Like, there's a difference between limiting speech and having accountability for what you say. And so that was kind of when we,
but there's also a fine line there too, right?
I mean, there is. And that's where you get down into the nitty gritty of like, what is accountability and how, what is proper. Then you get into the whole idea of justice and what is true, fair, like retributive justice. What is fair punishment? What is fair, for, so you look at what's the consequence, what's the actual consequence of that speech? What's the actual, damage is done, if you will, right? What's the injury, if any? And is it just offending somebody?
I just don't see anything that can come out of my mouth being that hateful. Like, it doesn't matter what word I say. It's like, why do you think that these vibrations that are coming out of my mouth are affecting you?
Yeah, but that's, but words have power. Words have power.
Power to affect the person that they're affecting.
Yeah. But you said it yourself, people, we have a mass mentality. And so and words can absolutely persuade and sway people. And if you sway enough people with your words and in a negative direction, or in a violent direction, or in a hateful direction, it is because words do have impact.
Why do you think that you can affect people with your words, though? You don't think people have their own minds?
I mean, if words didn't affect people, we wouldn't have marketing or advertising.
I'm not saying they don't, but I'm saying, why can't you teach everyone to think critically and to understand that this doesn't really affect me?
So here we come full circle, because critical thinking is exhausting. Because critical thinking is hard. And because at the end of the day, where most of us are just trying to get through the day.
So do you think it's all by design? Do you think someone has a nefarious plan, or do you think it's just a mistake?
I don't know that I don't give anybody that much credit. I think that it is, sort of a culmination, it's a compounding of human behavior, and the momentum that builds. over time from natural human behavior, and also a product of the world that we live in, the chaotic and overwhelming world that we find ourselves in, and people wanting to um, just cope and get through the day and be happy. And sometimes that, you know, critical thinking, or overthinking things, it can be tiring when you're just trying to get, from Monday to Tuesday. So do I think that there's some sort of, nefarious overarching plan? I mean, I just don't give anybody that much credit. And if it is, I don't think that that's, I don't, I think that if anybody wielded that much sway or power over people, I think that humanity would be in a different place. I don't know for better or for worse, but I think we'd be in a different place by now.
What's interesting when you actually look at like the arcs of time and see how civilizations rise and fall, and you can see that, China's going to be the next one to take over. Like that's the overall
seems to be the direction things are heading.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's like, this was predicted years ago.
Yeah.
That this is what's going to happen, and it's happening, but it's just like, you have to go through the steps of humanity to get to that point.
Right.
So like US has to fall and then this has to rise. They have to rise.
And so the reaction, and so this is another thing. It's like the president of Finland gave a speech to the UN not too long ago. One of many, but that talked about, he talked almost exactly what we were talking about before, which is the need to come to some sort of consensus about what basic values are and should be in human rights. Not that we haven't tried to do that before, but and actually adhere to them. But he was talking about multipolarity versus transactionalism.
I don't know what those are.
Meaning, sort of. I had to look it up too. So, meaning sort of like multipolarity, meaning that the power is shared globally. All right, and then some countries have more hard power, military and economic, versus the idea of soft power, which is everything from sharing your culture, your music, your your movies, to providing aid and service. So, but that that there's this seems like the idea would be to go to more of a more toward multipolarity, a shared global power, but that there is this, you also see that this sort of reversion to transactionalism, meaning just basically serving more short-term interest. And so, which is kind of, I think, what we see in the United States right now, is this response to, well, if we're losing power, then we don't like this idea of multipolarity as much, or, does that serve us as much as being more transactional and serving our more immediate national interest in order to retain, whatever power we do. So it's an interesting conversation, and to sort of see how that plays out on the global stage. As he said, he thinks it's going to take between 5 to 10 years to really see more clearly and have it crystallize which direction things are heading.
But, why does he think that?
Just because, not that it won't, start to go toward, not just China, but also, Africa. There's so much development that's going on within that continent, but just seeing how there are a lot of variables, not that it won't go in that direction, but just to kind of see truly the direction things are heading, just because there's a lot of variables that are happening. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting time to be alive.
It is. It definitely is an interesting time. And I think that I feel like a return to some sort of agreement, some sort of prioritizing of compromise, prioritizing of solutions, of ideas over ideology is what we need.
A one world religion, maybe?
So it's so funny you bring that up. I actually posed that question to one of my classes not too long ago. What do you think would be better? You think that diversity of religion or unity of religion is more beneficial for society? And it was like a 50-50 split of their opinions. And, I don't know that you'll ever, if you look at if you look at the history of human spirituality, there's since the I'm just going to say it, the idea of getting everybody on the same page in terms of religion has always been tied to political power.
Mm.
I mean, and not necessarily like from a bad, like a negative, but the empire builders. So King Sargon, he was the first empire builder, right? Like 2500 BC, I think, roughly. And he in Mesopotamia and and at the time, Mesopotamia was just like this collection of city states, and they all had their own patron god, right? There's whether it's Nana, the moon god, or Inanna, or whatever, they all had their own. Each little city state revered their own their own god, and his daughter, Hadwana, was the first known author in human history. She's the first one to sign her name to something, and she was the high priestess of the city of Ur, which the Nana, the moon god, was the patron god of that city. And so she, appointed by her father, she's high priestess of the city. And in order to, what the things that she was writing were both, she's the first person in history to also write about their emotions and their feelings, sort of their internal. But then she was also writing like hymns and spiritual religious exaltations to gods of other cities, of other city-states, in an attempt to help her father unify them under one empire.
And that worked?
Yeah, it did. In fact, his reign lasted, his dynasty lasted 100 years after his death.
So give me an example of what she would say.
It was really just, I think what these days we would, find in like biblical psalms, where it's basically exaltations to the gods of how wonderful and fantastic they were, and how, and her worship of them, and glorifying them. And the thing is, but she also wrote about like her religious experiences, her spiritual experiences. So it wasn't that it wasn't genuine. And I think it's interesting, and I would like to do more reading about it, but it wasn't that it wasn't genuine, but there, so I think that there was, it's interesting to consider whether or not there was this idea of the validity of unifying these religions, right? The worship of all of these separate deities under one. And then eventually that becomes, fast forward a couple thousand years, that becomes, the Babylonian Marduk is determined to be the supreme god over all of the other gods. And this, but so it's interesting because it wasn't done. Certainly there were instances where there was fighting over whose god is better, but that particular instance within Hadwana was really appeared to be more in a genuine effort to unify people.
But they were also didn't have the connectedness that we have today. That's the only issue with today. Like if you tried to redo what she did, it would be difficult because of the amount of information that we have.
Yes. Yeah. No, it definitely would. But but the question, one, I don't know that we will ever get that we would ever have everybody agreeing on one particular religion. But I do think that if you look at the heart of many of the religions, like the true heart of it, and not the differences, it really comes down that is where we should be able to agree on basic human morality, because they all say the same thing. And so we should at least be able to retain freedom of religion and diversity of religion, and still agree upon where we can respect each other as human beings and value each other. So, yeah.
It's a great place to stop, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got anything else you want to say? I mean,
I think that's good.
Yeah.
Good. I always love the
where can the people find you at, Fiona?
So we didn't even get to talk about film. But,
do you have things you're working on?
So we have Abita Springs Film Festival, which is coming up in January. So people should go to abitafilmfest.org. And this is talk about a great place to see a lot of different voices from around the entire world. And we've got more countries represented in our films than ever before. Mm-hmm. So people should mark their calendars and come to the film festival in Abita in January.
That was one of the things I did notice about some of the films I saw at Abita Film Fest was that there were people from all across the world and they were making dope stuff, man. Yeah.
Oh, it's incredible to see and to see like the differences of perspectives and I love it. I think it's unique in what it brings to our community here, our region here. And people should definitely come and check it out because we'll be screening a bunch of those films. So, yeah.
And that's AbitaFilmFest.org.
AbitaFilmFest.org. That's the best place to go.
Nice. Anything else?
No, that's good.
Well, I appreciate you coming in today, Fiona. Thanks, I love your brain. Anytime you're welcome on the podcast. You always make me think, and I'm exhausted when I leave the podcast with you.
Sorry.
Thank you, Fiona.
All right, thanks.